Confessions of St. Augustine, Book 1. Can any praise be worthy of the Lord's majesty? How magnificent his strength, how inscrutable his wisdom. Man is one of your creatures, Lord, and his instinct is to praise you. He bears about him the mark of death, the sign of his own sin, to remind him that you thwart the proud. But still, since he is part of your creation, he wishes to praise you. The thought of you stirs him so deeply that he cannot be content unless he praises you. Because you made us for yourself, and our hearts find no peace until they rest in you. Grant me, Lord, to know and understand whether a man is first to pray to you for help or to praise you, and whether he must know you first before he can call you to his aid. If he does not know you, how can he pray to you? For may he call you for some other help, mistaking it for yours. Or are men to pray to you and learn you to know you through their prayers? Only how are they to call upon the Lord until they have learned to believe in him? And how are they to believe in him without a preacher to listen to? Those who look for the Lord will cry out in praise of him, because all who look for him shall find him. And when they find him, they will praise him. I shall look for you, Lord, by praying to you, and as I pray, I shall believe in you, because we have had preachers to tell us about you. It is my faith that calls to you, Lord, the faith which you gave me and made to live in me through the merits of your Son, who became man, and through the ministry of your preacher. Part 2. How shall I call upon my God for aid, when the call I make is for my Lord and my God to come into myself? What place is there in me to which my God can come? What place that can receive the God who made heaven and earth? Does that mean, O Lord my God, that there is in me something fit to contain you? Can even heaven and earth, which you made, and which you have made me, contain you? Or since nothing that exists could exist without you, does this mean that whatever exists does in this sense contain you? If this is so, since I too exist, why do I ask you to come to me? For I should not be there at last all at once in this way. You are already present within me. I am not in hell, and yet you are there too. For if I sink to the world beneath, you are present still. So then, I shall be null and void and could not exist at all, if you, my God, were not in me. Or is it rather that I should not exist unless I exist in you? For all things find you in their origin, their impulse, the center of their being. This, Lord, is the true answer to my question. But if I exist in you, how can I call upon you to come to me? And where would you come from? For you, my God, have said that you fill heaven and earth. But I cannot go beyond the bounds of heaven and earth, so that you may leave them to come to me. Part 3. Do heaven and earth then contain the whole of you, since you fill them? Or whence you have filled them, is it some part of you left over because they are too small to hold you? If this is so, when you have filled heaven and earth, does that part of you which remains flow over into some other place? Or is it that you have no need to be contained in anything, because you contain all things in yourself, and fill them by reason of the very fact that you contain them? For the things which you fill, by containing them, do not sustain and support you as a water vessel supports liquid which fills it. Even if they were broken to pieces, you would not flow out of them in the way. And when you pour out yourself over us, you are not drawn down to us, but up over to yourself. You are not scattered away, but you gather us together. You fill all things, But do you fill them with your whole self? Or is it that the whole creation is too small to hold you, and therefore holds only a part of you? And is this same part of you present in all things at once, or do different things contain different parts of you, greater and smaller, according to their size? Does this mean that one part of you is greater and another smaller, or you are present entirely everywhere at once, and no small thing contains the whole of you? Part 4. What then is the God I worship? He can be none but the Lord God himself. But who but the Lord is God? What other refuge can there be except our God? You, my God, are supreme, utmost in goodness, mightiest and all-powerful, most merciful and most just. You are the most hidden from us, and yet the most present amongst us, the most beautiful, and yet the most strong, ever enduring, and yet we cannot comprehend you. You are unchangeable, and yet you change all things. You are never new, never old, and yet all things have new life from you. You are the unseen power that brings decline upon the proud. You are ever active, yet always at rest. You gather all things to yourself, though you suffer no need. You support, you fill, and you protect all things. You create them, nourish them, and bring them to perfection. You seek to make them your own. Though you lack for nothing, you love your creatures with a gentle love. You treasure them, but without apprehension. You grieve for nothing, but suffer no pain. You can be angry and yet serene. Your works are varied, but your purpose is one and the same. You are welcome, all have come to you, and though you never lost them. You are never needy, yet are glad to gain, that never covetous, yet you exact a return for your gifts. We abundantly to you, so that we may deserve a reward. Yet which of us has anything that does not come from you? You repay us what we deserve, and yet we have owe nothing to any. You release us from our debts, but you lose nothing thereby. You are my God, my life, my delight. But is this enough to say of you? Can any man say enough when he speaks of you? Yet woe betide those who are silent about you. For even those who are most gifted with speech cannot in words describe you. Part 5. Who will grant me to rest content in you? To whom shall I turn for the gift of your coming in my heart, and filling it to the brim, so that I may forget all the wrong I have done and embrace you alone, my only source of good? Why do you mean so much to me? Help me to find words to explain. Why do I mean so much to you, so that you command me to love you? If I fail to love you, you are angry and threaten me with great sorrow, as if not to love you were not sorrow enough in itself. Have pity on me and help me, O Lord my God. Tell me why you mean so much to me. Whisper in my heart, I am here to save you. Speak, that I may hear your words. My heart has ears ready to listen to you, Lord. Open them wide and whisper in my heart. I am here to save you. I shall hear your voice and make haste to clasp you to myself. Do not hide your face away from me, for I would gladly meet my death to see it, since not to see it would be death indeed. My soul is like a house, small for you to enter, but I pray you to enlarge it. It is in ruins, but I ask you to remake it. It contains much that you will not be pleased to see. This I know and do not hide. But who is it rid of these things? There is no one but you to whom I can say, if I have sinned unwittingly, do you absolve me? Keep me ever your own servant, far from pride. I trust, and trusting I find words to utter. Lord, you know what this is true, for I have not made my transgression known to you. Did you not remit the guilt of my sin? I do not wrangle with you for judgment, for you are truth itself, and I have no wish to delude myself, for fear that my malice should be self-betrayed. No, I do not wrangle with you, for if you, Lord, will keep record of our iniquities, Master, who has strength to bear it? Part 6. But dust and ashes though I am, let me appeal to your pity, since it is to you in your mercy that I speak, not to a man who would simply laugh at me. For you, too, may laugh at me, but you will not relent and have pity on me. For I want to tell you, Lord, is that I do not know where I came from when I was born into this life which leads to death, or should I say this death which leads to life? This much is hidden from me. But although I do not remember it all myself, I know that when I came into the world all the comforts which your mercy provides were there ready for me. This I was told by my parents, the father who begat me and the mother who conceived me, the two from whose bodies you formed me in the limits of time. So it was I given the comfort of my women's milk. But neither my father nor my mother nurses filled the breast of their own accord, for it is you who use them, and your law prescribes to give me infants' food, and a share of the riches which you distribute even among the humblest of all created things. It is also by your gift that I do not wish to pass more than you gave, and that my nurses gladly passed on to me which you have gave to them. They did this because you loved me in the way that you had ordained, and their love made them anxious to give to me what they have received in plenty from you. For it was to their own good that which was good from me should come to me from them, though, of course, it did not come to me from them, but though through them from you, because you, my God, are the source of all good, and everywhere you preserve me. All this I have learned since then, because all the gifts you have given to me, both spiritual and material, proclaim the truth of it. But in those days all I knew was how to suck and how to lie still when my body sent comfort, or to cry when it felt pain. Later on I began to smile as well, first in my sleep, and then when I was awake. Others told me this about myself, and I believe what they said because we see other babies do the same. But I cannot remember it myself. Little by little I began to realize where I was and want to make my wishes known to others who might satisfy them. But this I could not do because my wishes were inside of me, while other people were outside and they had no faculty which could penetrate my mind. So I would toss my arms and my legs about and make noises, hoping that few signs as I could would show my meaning, though they were quite unlike what they were meant to mime. And if my wishes were not carried out, either because they had not been understood or because what I wanted would have harmed me, I would get cross with my elders, who were not my beck and call, and with people who are not my servants simply because they did not attend to my wishes. And I would take my revenge by bursting into tears, by watching babies, and when I learnt this, how they would behave, and they quite unconsciously have done more than they chose, or brought me up and knew all about it to convince me that I behaved in such the same way themselves. My infancy is long since dead, yet I am still alive. But you, O Lord, live forever, and nothing in you dies, because you have existed from before the beginning of the ages, before anything that could be said to go before, and you are God and Lord of all you have created. In you are the first causes of all things not eternal, the unchangeable origins of all things that suffer change, the everlasting reason of all. Things that are subject to the passage of time have no reason themselves. Have pity, then, on me, O God, for it is pity that I need. Answer my prayer and tell me whether my infancy followed upon some other stage of life that died before it. Was it the stage of life I spent in my mother's womb? For I have learned a little about that too, and I have myself seen women who are pregnant. But what came before that, O God of my delight? Was I anywhere? Was I anybody? These questions I must put to you, for I have no one else to answer them. Neither my father nor my mother could tell me, nor could I find out from the experience of other people or from my own memory. Do my questions provoke you to smile at me and bid me to simply acknowledge you and praise you for what I do know? I do acknowledge you, Lord of heaven and earth, and I praise you for my first beginnings, although I can't remember them. But you have allowed men to discover these things about themselves by watching other babies, and also learn from what other women have to tell. I know that as a living person, even at that age, and I has come towards the ends of infancy, I try to find signs to convey my feelings to others. Where could such a living creature come from if not from you, O Lord? Can it be that any man has skill to fabricate it himself? Or can there be some channel by which we derive our life and our very existence from some channel other source than you? Surely we can only derive them from our Maker, from you, Lord, to whom living and being are not different things, since infinite life and infinite being are one and the same. For you are infinite and never change. In you, today never comes to an end, and yet our today does come to you, end in you, because time as well as everything exists in you. If it did not, it would have no means of passing. And since your years never come to an end, for you they are simply today. The countless years of our lives and our forefathers' lives have passed by within your today. From it they have received the due measure of the duration in their very existence. And if so, it will be with other days which are the same. But you yourself are eternally the same. In your today you'll make all that exists tomorrow, and thereafter, and in your today, you have made all that existed today and forever before me. Need it concern me if some other people can understand this? Let them ask what it means and be glad to ask, for they can make content with themselves the question alone. For it is better for them to find you and leave the question unanswered than to find the answer without finding you. Part 7. Hear me, O God, how wicked are the sins of men. Men say this, and you pity them because you made them. You made man, but you did not make sin in him. Who can recall to me the sins I committed as a baby? For in your sight no man is free from sin, nor even a child who has lived only one day on earth. Who can show me what my sins were? Some small baby in whom I can see all that I do not remember about myself? What sins then did I commit when a baby myself? Was it a sin to cry when I wanted to feed at my breast? I am too old now to feed on my mother's milk, but if I were to cry for the kind of food suited to my age, others would rightly laugh at me to scorn and remonstrate with me. So then, I too deserved scolding for what I did. But since I could not have understood the scolding, it was but unreasonable and most unusual to rebuke me. We root out these faults and discard them as we grew up, and this is proof enough that they were faults. Because I have never seen a man purposely throw out the good which he clears away the bad. It can hardly be right for a child, even at that age, to cry for everything, including the things which would hurt him, to work himself into the tantrum against people older than themselves and not required to obey him, and to try his best to strike and hurt others who know better than he does, including his own parents, when they do not give in to him, refuse to pander to whims which would not only do him harm. This shows that if babies are innocent, it is not for the lack of will to do harm, but the lack of strength. I have myself seen in jealousy a baby and know what it means. He was not old enough to talk, but wherever he spoke, he saw his foster brother at the breast, he would grow pale in envy. This is much common knowledge. Mothers and nurses say that they can work such things out of the system by one means or another, but surely cannot be called innocence when the milk flows in such abundance from its source to object to a rival desperately in need and depending for his life on one form of nourishment. Such faults are not small or unimportant, but we are tender-hearted and bear with them because we know that the child will grow out of them. It is clear that they are not mere peccadillos, because the same faults are intolerable in other persons and older persons. You, O Lord, gave me life in my body when I was born. You gave my body its 5 senses. You furnished it with limbs and gave its proper proportions, and you implanted it in all the instincts necessary for the welfare and safety of a living creature. For these gifts you command me to acknowledge you and praise you and sing in honor of your name, because you our Almighty God, because you are good, and because I owe you for the praise of these things, even if I have done nothing else. No one but you can do these things, because you are the one and one only mold in which all things are cast, and the perfect form which shapes all things, and everything takes its place according to your law. I don't remember that early part of my life, O Lord, but I believe what other people have told me about it, and from watching other babes I can conclude that they lived as they do. But true through my conclusions may be, I do not think of that period as the same life I now lead, because it is dim and forgotten. And then in a sense it is no different from me I spent in my mother's womb. But if I was born in sin, and guilt was with me already when my mother conceived me, where, I ask you, Lord, were or when I was your servant ever innocent? But I will say no more about that time, for since no trace of it remains in my memory, it no longer concerned me. Last part, chapter 8, I'm reading today. This will be continued in a later video. The next stage of my life, as I grew up, was boyhood. Or would it be truer to say that boyhood overtook me and followed upon my infancy, not my infancy left me? For if it did, where would it go? All the same, it was no longer there, because I ceased to be a baby unable to talk, and now was a boy with the power of speech. I can remember that time, and now later on realized how to speak. It was not my elders who showed me the words by some set system of instruction in the way they taught me to read not long afterwards, but instead I caught myself by using the intelligence which you, my God, gave to me. For when I tried to express my meaning by crying out and making various sounds and movements so that my wishes would be obeyed, I found I could not convey all I meant, or make myself understood by everyone whom I wished to understand me. So my memory prompted me. I noticed that people would name the same object, and then turn out towards whatever it was they had named. I watched them, understood that the sound they made when they wanted to indicate that particular thing showed which they meant. For there is a kind of universal language consisting of expressions of the face of eyes, gestures, and tones of voice, which can show whether a person means to ask for something and get it, or refuse it and have nothing to do with it. So, by hearing words arranged in various phrases and constantly repeated, I gradually pieced together for what they stood for, and when my tongue had mastered the pronunciation, I began to express my wishes by means of them. In this way, I have made my wants known to my family, and they have made those known there to me. And I stood further step into the stormy life of human society, although I was still subject to the authority of my parents and the will of my elders. This will be continued, getting with section 9 of book 1 in a later video. I hope this reading encourages others to seek the Lord and trust in Him. God bless you.